I thought it was interesting when Erik ten Hag said after the game against Fulham that they showed character and fight, and that prickled the Manchester United fans. And then yesterday suggesting that they could still get in the Champions League. I think people were like, and it's just been raised by Jonathan there. He's just coming out with platitudes rather than actually telling us what's wrong, and they maybe do want a little bit of a dose of reality. Stuart is a Manchester United fan. Hello.
Hi there. I kind of agree with Paul Ince there. It's sort of like, hi guys, by the way, great show. I love listening. I agree. Like going toe to toe. What is it? What did we get yesterday? 27%, and then 2 shots, 27% of the ball, 2 shots on target. It's simply not good enough. When you look at Ten Hag, and I know this has received wisdom, and I'm sure some of it is kind of true. But when you listen to what they're saying about how much we paid for Onana, and maybe it was above what the asking price was, and especially when what they were looking to get rid of Anthony for, and we went in there and stormed in with 80 million quid when they were they weren't expecting that sort of money. But that's one side of the Ten Hag argument which doesn't sort of sit well with me. It's like maybe that's not his forte, and we all work to strengths and weaknesses and all that sort of stuff. But then I think Dion Dublin was asking him yesterday. I don't know if it's pretty much a post-match. I was speaking to my brother and he asked him. He said, what's the plan here? And he said, well, the plan is to play out from the back. And he said, well, the plan isn't clear. And I looked at the game yesterday, and I don't doubt Marcus Rashford in what he says. I think he would bleed red. He would work so much for that club. You saw what that goal meant for him yesterday. But just looking at the structure of it, there's no one. And you look at Man City as a juxtapose to that. When they were putting the ball in, they were headering it back across goal to give it like a 50-50 chance of someone in blue is going to be more on that than a Man United player is. There was quite a clear structure in that sort of movement. Whereas you look at what we're trying to do, we know that Rashford can run in behind. But where are the balls coming to? I love Garnacho, and 27 starts out of 27 or whatever it is, goes to prove that he's someone that you're going to build a team around. But there were a couple of points yesterday where the ball we could have put a ball through for Rashford to go onto it. It just doesn't. If I'm managing that team and I've got Rashford there, I'm quite clearly saying to him, 8 out of 10 times, you're going to be offside. But don't worry about it. For those 2 times, I back you to run on and put the ball in the back of the net. There just doesn't seem to be. I think he's disillusioned by the fact that there isn't a clear structure and no one's sort of feeding him that ball. There's loads.
It's interesting his point there, Stuart. Actually, let's take that point there and focus on it with Paul Ince. Last season, Luke Shaw and Lisandro Martinez were playing on that left-hand side of the Manchester United defence. A lot of the build-up play came down that side and started with Lisandro Martinez. Danny Murphy, in his column in the Mail over the weekend, was suggesting that one of the reasons that Rashford hasn't thrived as much is in the absence of those 2 players. Do you sort of subscribe to that, bearing in mind what Stuart's just said?
Yeah, I can half see it. I can half see what he's saying. But then again, as I said before, this is the strength and depth you need in your squad. You look at all the players that Liverpool have had injured. The people coming to replace them. Manchester City, everybody's had injuries. Okay, so this when you talk about recruitment, you just don't talk about the first 11 players. You look at the bench, Manchester City's bench yesterday, compared to Manchester United's bench. So we always revert back to recruitment. You always try to have, as a manager,
and you can't argue they haven't spent any money because they have.
But the thing is,
they've just spent it not very well.
What the people got to understand, and Simon touched on it before, and he's absolutely spot on. You have to be a certain player to play for Manchester United.
But you have to know that as the recruitment person. So you have to go into to the different metrics, to different personality types. No. You have to really drill down and find out about that person before you hire them,
don't you? Find about that person. You find about his background, his hardship, his adversity. Nowadays, you don't really get that because it's a different type of generation. You know what I mean? But all the players, we should keep using this word character. It's tough to get character. It's tough to get leadership. Liverpool got it. City have got it.
But I was going to say other clubs have managed to do that. They found the profile of player that comes in and can handle that.
But Man United were in a situation where, because everybody was pushing them, we've got to catch up to City, we've got to close the gap, So every time one player had a decent season, like Anthony, like Sancho at Dortmund, all of a sudden they're paying over-the-top money for him. Over the top. Anthony, I actually probably a very, very good player. But the demands of the expectation of the Man United fans to perform week in and week out, you've got to be a certain mentally tough player to deal with that.
I mean, we've got to take the price tag out of players because we're not talking. Would you say if we bought Anthony for 50 million quid, it'd be a good buy? So it's not the 80 million price tag, it's what he's doing. And you've got to look at who recruits the recruiter. So if you look at the culture of the football club and say who recruited the guy that recruited the players, because if your culture's wrong and your attitude wrong, as your outlook is wrong and your disposition is wrong, and whether you've had managers come in, whether David Moyes was given a fair shake post-Ferguson, whether Louis van Gaal was the right personality to manage British media and Manchester United at that time, whether Mourinho was half in and half out doing a hokey-cokey because he wanted to stay in hotels and not be focused on his job. All of these things come into pass. But, you look at it, we make the point about what Man United have spent, and it doesn't matter. You wouldn't give 10 million for Anthony at this moment in time, let alone 80.
You're absolutely right about the spending, but the quality of the recruitment, regardless of the spending, is important, isn't it? The people that you're targeting, and there is not the expertise to target the right people.
But it's also incumbent upon the coach to make the players better. So there is an element of whatever Guardiola gets, and he's very fortunate, he often gets the best in class. But irrespective of that, they still become a different level once he's coached them. Look at the Man United team and ask yourself a question, with maybe a couple of exceptions. How many players in the last 18 months have improved under Erik ten Hag?
Well, you would have said that about Rashford, wouldn't you, last year?
But Rashford the season before, as a season where he doesn't fancy it, doesn't like Ralph Rangnick, doesn't feel particularly happy, and so doesn't perform. Comes back from the Europe, gets himself together because he's playing to play in the World Cup. Gets himself together, plays a decent season, and away we go. Last season he played well. Yeah, you're right. And the team played better. And if they track this way, United will finish 6th with 62 points, as opposed to 75 that got them into 3rd last year. And you look at Rashford, and again, the characterisation of him is that he's a world-class player. You're judging him by a set of standards that aren't right. You look around that team, and it's difficult to find anybody in that side that you sit there and think that you admire. McTominay at times, puts himself about a bit. But Fernandes, captain, I mean, give me a break. Fernandes might be a good offensive player and technically very good, but as a captain, it's a standing joke. He's not a captain. He's not a leader. He's not an inspirer of players. Rashford folding himself on the floor, having hysterics because he doesn't get a free kick that wasn't a free kick, comes straight out of Fernandes' playbook. You emulate what you see. Ten Hag, I think, has got a difficult job because I think he's a strong character. And every time he tries to implement something, the challenge is that he's got this culture that he's trying to row back on. So I don't think he'll do the job. I never thought Ten Hag, from the first interview that I saw him do, or second interview, when I made this stupid comment that I thought was relative to the positioning of him, that his suit looks like a man that's suit's too big for him. That's not because his suit's too big for him, it's badly fitting.
I've seen that jacket he's wearing today.
It was a Burberry suit. It's because he doesn't look like a man that holds court and has charisma and is able to engage players, and you need to have players' attention. And I'm not sure he has their attention at times.
Guardiola certainly gets everyone's attention, and he's got Phil Foden's attention. And Reece, very quickly, West Ham fan wants to just pay tribute to his performance yesterday. Go for it, Reece.
Right, guys.
What do you want to say, mate?
Yeah, I thought Foden was like, he got me excited for the Euros watching that game yesterday. I think him and Bellingham, the likes of them two, are going to lead us to win the trophy. And Southgate watching, he can't really have any excuses not at least get to the final with world-class players like that. It's like having a player from Stockport who's grown up in La Masia. Like, it's basically what's happened because of Pep. He should play for Barcelona. He's that style, but he's English, and we've got him to look forward to in the Euros. So yesterday give me a bit of I'm buying an England shirt with Foden on the back, I think.
Well, let's just put it this way. Manchester City fans will certainly be hoping that he doesn't go off to Barcelona. And I think we're pretty happy that he's in the Premier League as well. He was brilliant yesterday, and he's been brilliant this season. 18 goals already for Phil Foden, his best ever scoring season.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.